2 months into my roommate catfishing someone online with my photos, a stream of bullet comments began scrolling along the edge of my vision. The male lead has already rejected the female lead's invitation to meet up 3 times. He can't help it. He's using his roommate's photos to date her online. He's so average looking and insecure that he doesn't dare meet her in person. Don't worry, male lead. As soon as you meet her and explain everything, she'll forgive you. Then the rest of the story is just sweet, sweet romance. The female lead is a gorgeous, ridiculously rich heiress. Before the comments even finished scrolling, my roommate Ryan poked his head down from the top bunk, wearing a smug grin. "Leo," he said, clearly showing off, "my girlfriend just sent me more money." He let out an exaggerated sigh. "Man, having a girlfriend this rich. I hope you guys aren't too jealous." I raised an eyebrow. His girlfriend, the one he got using my photos? Well, I thought, starting now, she's my girlfriend. Ryan dangled his phone in front of my face. I could clearly see the screen. A transfer for $1,000. Memo, for my darling hubby to order some takeout. Only after making sure I'd seen the amount did Ryan pull the phone back and quickly tap accept. Then he sent a voice message. "Thanks for feeding me, wifey." The bullet comment sped up again. OMG, their love story is so cute. They haven't even met, but their romance is already so sweet. Classic domineering CEO and clueless college guy pairing. It's been 2 months, when are they finally going to meet? He shouldn't worry so much about looks. The female lead isn't shallow. She might be surprised at first, but she'll get over it quickly. Don't rush him. He's trying to lose weight. He plans to meet her after losing another 15 pounds. 15 pounds. I glanced up at Ryan's back as he sat on his bunk, stuffing his mouth with snacks. 2 months ago, on a whim, he'd stood in the middle of our dorm room and sworn he would finally lose weight. For the first few days, he barely ate and went for a run every evening, coming back drenched in sweat and gasping for air. Unfortunately, that phase lasted exactly 3 days. One night, hungry and miserable, he caved at the smell of fried chicken and devoured an entire bucket by himself. His diet ended there. Thanks to the binge eating, he'd actually gained weight, tipping him past 200 pounds. I changed into a crisp white casual outfit. The tailored cut made the man in the mirror look sharp and effortlessly put together. Then I asked casually, "So, have you and your girlfriend met yet?" The bullet comments immediately bristled. Why is the camera on the villain? So what if he's handsome? Exactly. Even though the male lead is using his photos, our female lead isn't shallow. Character matters more than looks. The comments became a dense wall of scrolling text. It was only then that I fully understood. I was the villain in a syrupy romance novel. In the story, the male lead uses my photos to date the female lead. When they finally meet, she's shocked that he looks nothing like his pictures, but she quickly accepts it, and their sweet romance begins. To prove she loves his personality and not his looks, she even goes out of her way to crush my family's company. In the end, I lose everything and fade quietly out of the story, alone and forgotten. The main couple's love, having been tested, becomes stronger than ever. No one gives a second thought to the disposable stepping stone that is me. But wait. If looks really don't matter, why didn't Ryan just use his own photos? I looked up at him. His shoulders stiffened. We haven't met, he muttered. But we've exchanged pictures. Then, defensively, he added, "Leo, don't tell me you're jealous I've got such a rich girlfriend." He sighed again, dripping with condescension. "It's kind of a shame. You're better looking than me, and your family's well off too, but you still can't land a girl with money." I adjusted my hair in the mirror, completely unfazed. "Why would I be jealous?" I said lightly. "It'd be nice if you brought her around to meet everyone someday." Ryan choked on his words. Quickly changing the subject, he looked me up and down, envy flashing in his eyes. "Hey, Leo. Take a selfie and send it to me." Seeing my hesitation, he rushed to add, I just want a picture of my roommate. You know. For memories." I agreed without pause. "Sure. 1 second." The moment he got the photo, Ryan curled up on his bunk and immediately sent it out. "Just took a new selfie. How do I look?" A rapid series of notification chimes exploded from his phone. So much for not caring about looks. I glanced at the bullet comments again. Sigh. When will he get over his insecurity? He sent the villain's photo again. "She really doesn't care what you look like. You'll see when you meet her." I remember this part of the plot. Later, When the villain can't stand losing such a rich and beautiful girl, he runs to the female lead and claims he's the guy in the photos. And what happens? His desperate behavior only makes the couple's bond stronger. Ha ha. The female lead is the sole heiress to Walton Corporation. You think she's shallow enough to care only about looks? The villain deserves his fate. He's just a stepping stone for their love. I absorbed the key detail. Walton Corporation's heiress, huh? Noted. But we'll see who the real stepping stone is. As I was leaving the dorm, Ryan asked casually, "No classes today? Where you headed?" A faint smile played on my lips. Met a really nice girl recently. Going to see her? He asked. Finding Walton Corporation's headquarters wasn't difficult. On the way, I'd already looked up Fiona Walton online. There were only a few low-resolution photos, but they couldn't hide her elegant features or refined presence. She really was a beautiful, wealthy heiress. I set my phone down, my knuckles tapping lightly against the cafe table. The coffee beside me had gone cold. My seat had a clear view of the Walton Corp entrance. The bullet comments were buzzing elsewhere, oblivious to where I was. She's so busy, but she still makes time to chat with him. This is the kind of doting romance I live for. It's almost evening. She has to go to dinner soon. Ugh, just meet already. I straightened as people began filing out of the building. Among them, Fiona Walton stood out instantly. Heads turned as she walked past. Even I had to admit, Ryan had good taste. I got up and left the cafe. As I passed her, I deliberately brushed her shoulder. She stumbled, starting to fall. Instinctively, I reached out and caught her, my arm steadying her before she could hit the ground. Our eyes met. A flash of delighted surprise crossed her face. "It's you." I helped her regain her balance and stepped back, a faint flush touching my cheeks. "I'm so sorry," I said sincerely. "I was walking too fast. I didn't hurt you, did I?" My expression held only concern. I clearly didn't recognize her. That moment of confusion passed quickly for Fiona. She reasoned it out herself, he'd only sent her a few distant photos. Of course he wouldn't recognize her right away. But she recognized me. Since meeting on the app, Stargazer had sent her countless selfies, a bright smile, a fit build, effortless style. She'd asked to meet 3 times, and he'd refused every time. He wouldn't even tell her which university he attended. She'd never imagined fate would let her meet him like this. Seeing the admiration in her eyes, I hid a smile and glanced at my watch. "Miss," I said, sounding anxious, "I just finished my part-time job. I need to get back to Northwood University or I'll miss the last bus." Without waiting for her response, I turned and walked away, disappearing into the evening crowd. Fiona reached out, grasping only empty air. Her lips silently repeated the words Northwood University. When I returned to the dorm, the sky was filled with stars. The bullet comments were overflowing with excitement again. "Wow, she's especially chatty tonight. She keeps asking if he's tired. Little does she know Ryan's been lying in bed all day. She sent him another 1,000, she's worried he's working too hard. This girl is insanely rich." As I opened the door, Ryan was climbing down from his bunk. "Ugh, why did she send me more?" he complained loudly, clearly showing off. "How am I supposed to spend all this?" Then he spotted me. "Leo, perfect timing. Help me pick out a watch. Which one should I get?" I pointed enthusiastically to a diamond-studded model. "That one. Classic and versatile." Satisfied, he placed the order, then asked casually, "So how was that girl you met?" "She was nice," I said slowly. "Nice?" he scoffed, eyeing my empty hands. "She didn't even buy you anything. You're still seeing someone that cheap?" My girlfriend never hesitates to send money. Ever since freshman year, Ryan had competed with me, grades, looks, family background. Losing on every front, he'd pinned all his hopes on landing a rich girlfriend. Fiona had inflated his ego beyond reason. As he climbed back onto his bunk, our other roommate Jake leaned over and whispered, "Ignore him. Ever since he got that girlfriend, he's unbearable." "So, are you seeing that girl again tomorrow?" Ryan, oblivious, was still sending voice messages. "My wifey is the best. Love you. Moi." A knowing smile curved my lips. Of course I was seeing her tomorrow. After all, someone was bound to get impatient. Sunday morning, I'd barely stepped out of Northwood's gates when I saw it, a black luxury sedan parked like it belonged there, the kind of car that makes people slow down and stare even when they're late. And then Fiona Walton stepped out. She didn't look like a girl waiting outside a college campus. She looked like someone who owned the city and was simply taking a casual walk through it. Her hair was smooth, her coat perfectly cut, her expression calm enough to make everyone else feel sloppy. A few students glanced at her, then at me, then at her again, trying to piece together a story that didn't make sense. She lifted a hand, the smallest wave, like she was worried she'd embarrass me if she was too eager. "Hi," she said, and her voice was softer than I expected. Almost careful. "About yesterday. I kept thinking I might have startled you. I wanted to apologize properly. It was such a clean excuse. Such a polite reason to show up." And the bullet comments practically exploded. She found him. I knew she'd show up at the university. This is so romantic, I'm going to die. Male lead is about to panic. Don't worry. Once they talk, it'll be fluffy romance again. I let my eyes flick down, just for a second, like I was suddenly shy. "You don't have to," I said. "It was my fault. I was rushing." Fiona's gaze lingered on my face, and I watched her do it, the way her attention slipped, involuntary, like she couldn't help herself. Then she opened the passenger door for me before I could even protest. "I can give you a ride," she offered. "You said you were coming back from work. If you're working weekends too, that's a lot." I hesitated just long enough to look polite about it, then slid in. The inside of the car smelled like clean leather and money. As Fiona drove, she glanced at me again, almost distracted. "Northwood's curriculum is intense," she said. "Why are you doing a part-time job on weekends?" I tilted my head, letting a small, embarrassed smile show, sweet, believable, harmless. "My family wants me to learn independence," I said lightly. "So my allowance isn't generous." Her fingers tightened on the steering wheel for half a beat. Because in her world, Stargazer had never sounded like someone scraping by. In her world, Stargazer had been charming and confident, always brushing off her invitations with excuses that somehow made him seem even more mysterious. And in her world, she'd already sent him more money than most students made in a month. But she didn't ask. She just kept driving, eyes forward, expression smoothing back into control. We pulled up to a small cafe I'd scouted the day before, a place that looked cozy and innocent, like the kind of background setting a romance novel would use for its fated second meeting. I hopped out quickly. "Thanks for the ride." "Really?" Fiona didn't leave. She parked, got out, and walked in after me like it was the most natural thing in the world. I tied on an apron, slipped behind the counter, and started working. Grinding beans. Wiping down the bar. Smiling at customers. And Fiona took the closest table to the register, ordered an iced Americano, and watched me like I was the only thing in the room that mattered. When I carried her drink over, she looked up at me with a faint, puzzled crease between her brows. "You didn't wear it," she said softly. I blinked. "Wear what?" "The necklace," Fiona said, like she was talking to someone she knew intimately. "The one I sent you. The vintage Alhambra." The words landed clean and sharp. Because I'd heard Ryan brag about it. I'd watched him pull a velvet box out like it was proof he'd finally won at life, then send a voice message in that fake, syrupy tone. "Thanks, babe. I'll wear it every day." I let confusion spread across my face, slow and sincere. "I've never had a necklace like that," I said. "Maybe you've mistaken me for someone else?" Fiona froze. A few drops of condensation slid down her cup and darkened the table. I turned away before she could recover and went back to the counter, keeping my movement steady, my smile polite. But I could feel her staring. It wasn't just surprise anymore. It was calculation. A quiet, unsettling puzzle assembling itself in her mind. A few minutes later, I returned with a warm cappuccino instead, foam neat, cinnamon dusted lightly. "This one's on me," I said, gentle. "You look like you didn't sleep." Fiona's fingers brushed mine when she took the cup. Her hand was warm. Almost too warm. She drank it quickly, like she needed it to ground herself. Then her eyes flicked down to my name tag. Leo. Her breathing changed, just slightly. Like she'd been holding her breath without realizing it. "Leo," she repeated, as if tasting the name. And I watched the exact moment the story split in two. Because in her phone, the voice messages from Stargazer didn't sound like me. In her phone, the name wasn't Leo. In her phone, it was Ryan, hiding behind my face, borrowing my smile, cashing in on someone else's devotion. Fiona set her cup down. "Can I?" She hesitated. "Can I have your contact info?" I paused long enough to seem cautious, then took out my phone. I added her. And the bullet comments went feral. No way. The villain just stole the female lead. This isn't supposed to happen. He's going off script. He's going to ruin the sweet romance. Someone stop him. That week, Fiona was everywhere in my notifications. Good morning. Did you eat? How was class? Are you tired? Don't work too hard. I'm sending you money for dinner, no arguments. Meanwhile, Ryan's phone, once a constant symphony of chimes, turned quiet in a way that made him twitchy. He'd lie on his bunk, thumbs tapping furiously, sending message after message, then stare at the screen like he could force it to light up with sheer desperation. The bullet comments didn't understand at first. Why isn't she responding? Did the female lead get busy? Male lead is being ignored? It's fine. She's just working. She'll come back. She always does. But even they couldn't ignore the pattern. A good morning from Ryan would go unanswered for hours. A string of clingy voice messages would get a single dry reply. And then, on Saturday, Ryan finally snapped. He sat up so fast the bunk creaked. Leo, he said, trying to sound casual and failing. I'm meeting her. I looked up from my book, letting interest flicker across my face like a candle catching. Really? I asked. About time. He puffed out his chest, suddenly defensive again. She asked. She's been wanting it. And, I can't avoid it forever. The bullet comments erupted like fireworks. Yes. Finally. The meetup scene. Here we go, sweet romance incoming. She'll forgive him, and everything will be cute. He just has to confess and cry a little. Ryan spent the entire afternoon tearing apart his closet like a man preparing for battle. He tried on jacket after jacket, then chose something looser, something that hid the parts of him he hated. He practiced a smile in the mirror that didn't reach his eyes. And while he rehearsed his apology, my phone buzzed. Fiona, are you free tonight? I answered immediately. I am. Fiona, dinner. There's a French place downtown. Vitroshotter. I've been wanting to take you. I smiled at the screen. Then let's go. The bullet comment stuttered, like they'd tripped over their own logic. Wait. Why is the villain going too? Isn't this the main couple's date? This is wrong. This is so wrong. Ryan left first, slamming the door like he wanted the whole dorm to know he was a man with a rich girlfriend. 10 minutes later, I walked out too, calm and unhurried. By the time Ryan arrived at Vitroshotter, the place was glowing, glass walls, soft music, the city's night skyline spread out like a promise. He stood at the entrance, sweating under his collar, rehearsing his lines one last time. And then he saw Fiona. She was holding a bouquet of roses. Not for him. She scanned the room once, twice, eyes searching with a focus so sharp it didn't belong in a light-hearted romance. When Ryan stepped forward, Fiona's gaze landed on him and stalled. Not disgust. Not cruelty. Just a blank kind of surprise, like she'd opened a door expecting one person and found a stranger in the hallway. Ryan swallowed. Forced a smile. Fiona, he said, voice pitching into the sweet, fake tone he used in voice messages. It's me. Stargazer. Fiona didn't move. Her fingers tightened around the roses so hard the stems flexed. Ryan rushed to fill the silence. I'm sorry I didn't meet you sooner.
I was scared.
I used someone else's photos, but my feelings were real. You can forgive me, right? The bullet comments screamed over each other. Forgive him. This is the confession. She'll say looks don't matter. She'll prove she loves him for his personality. Fiona's eyes stayed on Ryan's face for a long, unbearable beat. Then she spoke, calm as a blade sliding from its sheath. Where is Leo? Ryan's smile cracked. What? Fiona's gaze shifted, scanning past him, past the tables, past the waiters, past the curious glances. And then she saw me. The change in her expression was immediate, like the whole room snapped into focus. Leo, she said, relief flooding her voice, and stepped around Ryan like he was furniture. Ryan spun, panic flashing bright and ugly. Leo, what are you doing here? He hissed, like he could intimidate me back into my role. The bullet comment surged again. Oh my god, the villain is interfering. Classic villain move. He's going to pretend he's Stargazer. He's going to get humiliated. He deserves it. I lifted my hand slightly, as if startled, as if wounded. My eyes widened. My throat tightened. I let my voice tremble just enough to sell it. Fiona, I whispered. You're Ryan's girlfriend? Fiona's face went pale. She turned to Ryan so fast it almost looked violent. Ryan? She repeated, tasting the name like something bitter. You told me your name was. Ryan scrambled, pulling out his phone, shoving the screen toward her like evidence. The chat history, he blurted. It's me. I'm the one who's been talking to you this whole time. I admitted the pictures were fake. But it was still me. Fiona didn't even glance at the phone. She stared at him the way someone stares at a stain they can't believe got on their clothes. And then she stepped toward me, roses still in hand. Leo, she said, voice urgent now, unguarded. Listen to me. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I flinched back like her words hurt. No, I said, barely above a whisper. Don't. If you have a boyfriend. Then I shouldn't be here. I turned, shoulders trembling, and walked away. Behind me, I heard Fiona call my name. Once. Twice. Then her footsteps, fast, desperate, until Ryan grabbed her arm. The bouquet slipped, petals scattering like a soft, humiliating snow. Fiona, Ryan shouted. You can't just, after everything. Fiona shook him off with a sharp motion. Everything? She snapped. Everything you stole? And then she ran after me. I didn't look back. Not when she called my name outside the restaurant. Not when my phone started lighting up. Not when her texts came in rapid fire, increasingly frantic. Please talk to me. I can explain. I'm sorry. Leo, please. I blocked her. I blocked her number too. When I got back to the dorm, I crawled into bed and pulled the blanket over my head like I was trying to disappear. My phone kept lighting up anyway, missed calls, voicemails, messages that never reached me. 2 hours later, Ryan stumbled in. His face was drained, his hair mussed, his eyes shining with rage and humiliation. He slammed his bag down. Happy now? He spat. She dumped me. Because of you. I sat up slowly, eyes red enough to look real. Because of me? I whispered. Ryan, I didn't even know she was your girlfriend. You've never met her. You never brought her around. How was I supposed to know? Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. Because we both knew the truth. Jake, who'd been pretending to sleep, finally spoke, voice flat. You used Leo's photos. She met Leo in real life. What did you think would happen? Ryan's expression twisted, anger scrambling for a place to land. But there was nowhere safe to put it. The next morning, I went to work early. Outside the dorm building, a familiar black sedan waited. Fiona stood beside it, hair a little wind-tossed, eyes shadowed like she'd been awake all night. The moment she saw me, something in her lit up, hope, raw and reckless. Leo, she said, stepping forward. I looked away immediately, jaw clenched, and walked past her as if she didn't exist. She grabbed my arm gently, not forceful, but desperate. Please, she said, voice rough. Let me explain. I kept my eyes down. I don't want to be in the middle of anything, I said quietly. We should act like we never met. I pulled free and kept walking. Behind me, Fiona's hand hung in the air for a moment, clutching at nothing. When I boarded the bus, I saw it in the window reflection, a black sedan rolling behind us at a careful distance, like it was afraid to scare me off. At the cafe, Fiona took the same seat as yesterday. Closest table. Closest view. She ordered a cappuccino this time, hands clasped together like she was holding herself still. I made the drink. Set it down. Turned away. Fiona reached for my wrist in a panic, and the cup tipped. Hot coffee splashed over her hand. My breath caught. Fiona. I grabbed her hand and pulled it under cool running water, my movements brisk, efficient, concerned in a way that felt impossible to fake. Her fingers trembled. But she didn't seem to care about the burn. She stared at me like I'd just thrown her a life raft. You're talking to me, she breathed. Leo, you're talking to me. I dabbed her hand dry, applied ointment the cafe kept for accidents, and kept my face carefully composed. We can be civil, I said, voice soft. That's all. Fiona swallowed hard. Then, words spilling out like she'd been drowning in them. Ryan used your photos to talk to me. From the beginning, the person I thought I was dating was you. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. And then I met you, before I ever met him, and everything in my head. Everything clicked into place. Her voice cracked. Leo, I like you. I've liked you. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise just because the story says I'm supposed to forgive the liar and call it romance. The bullet comments, which had been screaming for sweet redemption, suddenly went quiet in a stunned, confused wave. This isn't how it goes. She's not supposed to choose the villain. The script is broken. What is happening? Fiona's eyes were bright, stubborn, unapologetic. Be my boyfriend, she said, voice low. Just give me a chance. I didn't answer. I let silence hang between us, heavy and deliberate. Because I could feel it, the new current in the story. The way power shifted when someone stopped being disposable. Fiona didn't back off. If anything, she became worse, in the most glamorous, relentless way. She unblocked herself from every corner of my life. Found new ways in. New numbers. New accounts. New excuses to show up. She sent money to correct the past. She sent gifts to make up for what I missed. She waited outside my classes like she had nowhere else to be. And back in the dorm, Ryan watched it all with a bitterness so sharp it could have cut glass. Then, one afternoon during lunch, Jake shoved his phone in my face. Leo, he said, voice tight. You're on the campus confession page. The post was pinned at the top, bold and ugly. Homewrecker alert, quiet guy from Northwood is stealing someone's girlfriend for money. Under it was my photo, clear, high resolution, taken from somewhere I hadn't noticed. My face, my profile, my expression neutral enough to look guilty if you wanted it to. The comments were already piling up. Isn't that Leo from Econ? He always looks so innocent. Guess you never know. Of course he'd do it. That girl is rich. Anyone would. My stomach sank in a way I let show just enough to be convincing. In the dorm, I turned slowly to Ryan. His smile was too quick, too pleased, too eager to watch me burn. You did this, I said quietly. Ryan's mask slipped. If you hadn't shown up, he snapped, voice rising, she wouldn't have dumped me. You're pathetic. You're jealous I got a rich girlfriend, so you had to ruin it. I stared at him. Then, like the universe itself was tired of his acting, a new post appeared, fresh, simple, devastating. A screenshot of the first conversation Fiona had ever had with Stargazer. Fiona, can I see a photo? And then, my selfie. My face. No room for debate. No ambiguity. The comment section turned like a flock of birds changing direction in unison. Wait, so Ryan used Leo's photos? So Leo wasn't the homewrecker. Ryan was the liar. That's disgusting. He tried to destroy Leo to save himself? Pathetic. Within 2 days, the confession page was full of people dragging Ryan's name through the dirt he'd tried to throw on me. Ryan panicked and posted proof-long chat logs, voice messages, everything he could dig up like receipts. And people laughed. Who even is this guy? You could be talking to your own burner account for all we know. The only real proof is the photos, and those are Leo. Ryan stopped going to class. Stopped going out. Then, a month before graduation, he packed his things and left school early, vanishing into the real world with a bruised ego and nowhere soft to land. The bullet comments returned, slower now, less sure of themselves. So, the female lead isn't the female lead anymore? Is this a villain redemption arc? Why is this suddenly interesting? Jake leaned against my desk one evening, smirking. Fiona's downstairs again, he said. She's ridiculous. You're really not going to say yes? I looked out the window. Fiona stood near the entrance, hands in her pockets, eyes fixed on the dorm like she was waiting for a sign. She looked, absurdly, like the one being punished. And I felt something cold curl at the edge of my smile. Say yes? To what? To being her test? To being her new obsession? The story had tried to sell me a fantasy, that looks didn't matter, that personality won, that love was pure enough to bulldoze everything else. But I'd watched the truth unfold in real time. Fiona didn't fall in love with character. She fell in love with the person who fit her dream. She just got to pretend it was deeper than that. Money and power, though? Those were real. Those didn't vanish when the chapter ended. So I didn't say yes. I let Fiona chase. I let her spend. I let her open doors I'd never had access to. And when graduation came, I was ready. Instead of waiting for Walton Corporation to crush my family's company the way the bullet comments promised, I moved first. I got my family to register a new company before the market shifted. I stepped into an industry Walton Corp hadn't bothered to take seriously. We expanded fast, quiet, aggressive, surgical, until our name was everywhere. And Walton Corp? They stumbled. A bad pivot. A messy transition. Too much pride, too slow to adapt. Within 3 years, the empire Fiona had inherited shrank into something brittle and desperate, assets sold off, influence fading, executives jumping ship before the fall could stain them. I stopped checking their news. I stopped caring. Until one day, the bullet comments came back, rolling across my vision like a headline. The male lead's glow is gone. This book only has one main character now. Walton Corp is collapsing. She's going to beg him for investment. She's at his company right now. No way. No way. No way. I didn't even blink when my assistant told me Fiona Walton was in the lobby. When she walked into my office, she looked older, not in years, but in weight. Like she'd finally learned what it felt like to lose. Her eyes still searched for me the same way, though. Hungry. Hopeful. Certain I would save her because she'd once decided I was the one. Leo, she said, voice shaking just slightly. I always liked you. I never stopped. If you invest in Walton Corp, we can fix everything. We can. I laughed. Not loud. Not cruel. Just enough to cut through the fantasy. Fiona, I said, leaning back in my chair, fingers tapping lightly on the desk. Do you remember what you told Stargazer? Her mouth parted, confused. I smiled, calm as glass. You said you loved him for who he was, I said. You said you didn't care about looks. You said you weren't shallow. Fiona's face tightened. I tilted my head. So why are you here asking me to rescue you? Shouldn't you be asking Ryan? Her expression froze, like I'd slapped her with a truth she didn't want to admit existed. Security moved closer, quietly. Fiona stepped forward anyway, desperate now. If the person I'd been talking to from the beginning was you, would we have ended up together? I looked at her for a long moment. Then I shook my head, smiling wider. No, I said simply. Because if it had been me from the beginning, I wouldn't have answered. Fiona's face collapsed. Security guided her out. And as the door shut, I caught a glimpse, through the glass walls of my building, of a familiar figure on the sidewalk. Ryan. He was waiting for her. Of course he was. 3 years later, with Walton Corp crumbling, he still clung to the same dream, that he could somehow become the chosen one if he just refused to let go. Fiona stormed toward him, and Ryan grabbed at her sleeve like a drowning man. I'm the one you talked to, he insisted, voice cracking. I'm the one who was there. You can't just, after everything. Fiona ripped her arm away, eyes burning. Everything? You mean everything you stole? Ryan's face twisted. If you hadn't met Leo, you would have forgiven me. You would have. Fiona's laugh was sharp and hollow. Forgiven you? For lying to me for months? For humiliating me? For trying to ruin him when you got caught? They shouted, voices rising, spilling into the street like trash blown loose by the wind. In the original story, they were supposed to be the couple everyone rooted for, the sweet romance, the tested love, the destined ending. Now they looked like two people chained to each other by resentment and denial, fighting because neither of them could face what they'd become. I watched from the 22nd floor, the city spread out beneath me, and felt something settle in my chest that tasted like victory. The bullet comments rolled again, slower this time, almost thoughtful. Stepping Stone turned the tables. He's the real lead. Honestly? This is way better than a cutesy romance. Look at the original couple, what a mess. Can he handle being the main character? I opened my mouth, as if I could speak back to the sky itself. And in my mind, I answered them. I won't disappoint you. On the day my company officially went public, the bullet comments flooded my vision one last time, laughing, gossiping, marveling at the wreckage of the story that had tried to swallow me whole. Somewhere down below, Fiona and Ryan were still tangled together in a life that looked nothing like their fantasy, arguing in a cramped apartment in a part of town they once would have called beneath them. And up here, with the glass and the skyline and the quiet hum of power around me, I finally understood the real ending. The book didn't change. It just picked the right lead. The end. Thanks for watching today's story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place.